Yeah. Hello.
Well, welcome back to our subscription video, tasting with my friend again, Fotis. You've been here before?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It was a couple of months ago.
Fotis is one of our baristas, but he's also one of our roasters. And he actually came with me to Colombia. Was that in October?
October, yeah, 24th or something like that.
Yeah,
I
so
remember.
just a couple of months ago. And the reason why you can explain, why were you in Colombia?
Well, I always wanted to see what's going on behind coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, the sourcing, harvesting, picking up, how much work it's behind. So, pretty much the reason that I always wanted to see how it is. And since you've been there working on your farm, Finca El Suelo, it was a perfect opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Right?
So Fotis asked me early last year if he could come with me to Colombia on vacation. And it was not a vacation for you. You had to work hard.
Yeah.
So he spent a week, I think, on the farm?
Yeah, it was a week. And it was like completely like hard work to do. Waking up in the morning, like 6 o'clock, making some coffee, and then working on compost, picking up some coffee, see the whole work that the farmer or a picker does.
Yeah, so you were actually a picker for a day, actually.
Yeah, I was doing it for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
I woke up 6 o'clock in the morning until 12, so not the whole day, but it was enough for me to feel exactly how hard it is.
Yeah. And if you want to check out that, actually we made a little video of Fotis the day he was picking coffee, where we were filming when he came back to the farm and started to sort the cherries. We did the whole process. So if you want to learn how the coffees on Tamana, which is the coffees we're going to taste today, how they're processed, we're doing that small scale with Fotis in this video, and it's in YouTube. So we'll put a link to it below. But it's filmed with an iPhone for Instagram, so it's not horizontal, but I think it's a very educational video. Do you remember how many kilos of cherries you picked?
Yeah, it was 11.5 kilos of cherries, and then the final result, it was like 1 point something kilos of roasted coffee that drinkable, at least on the way that we do.
Yeah, which is actually the way we do it at Tamana. We were just doing it in small buckets because there was not a lot of cherries. So we're doing the same more or less in Tamana. It's just bigger tanks and machinery now washing the coffees. So you should definitely check that video out. And the coffee you picked was actually amazing.
Yeah.
We had a little lecture here in our lab and had some guests who listened to Fotis' experience from Finca Tamana and also Finca El Suelo. And it was a nice week, I think.
Yeah.
For me, I think, a lot of people ask me if they can come with me onto farms and so on. And normally I'm working quite hard, so I don't really have the opportunity. But of course, when you came, I thought it would be much better if you actually experience what it is to be and to work on a farm instead of just traveling around visiting many, many different farms. Because when you do that, you normally just take a little walk into the field and then you sit down and have a nice lunch and then that's it. But when you're kind of staying on a farm for a week, you have to get up with the workers. You experience what they're actually doing. And that's the real authentic experience, I think.
Yeah. I had it on my mind that it's going to be tough and not easy to work. But of course, when you go in action and see exactly how it is, then you appreciate a lot the work behind coffee. So that's what I recommend to everybody. They should do it like this way.
To actually work on the farm.
Yeah.
So, we're not here to chit-chat. If you want to know more about Fotis and his background, you can watch the previous video you were in. Yeah. We can put a link to that below as well. But today we're going to taste 3 coffees from Finca Tamana, and that's why I invited you to come back, because since you were just there, we can share a little bit of the experience. And this is the 3 coffees we're going to send out for our it's March subscription, yes, because it's February now. So 3 different coffees, but from the same farm. So this time the difference in the cup is not going to be huge, of course. They're all grown on the same farm. Yeah. But I wanted to try something that's quite interesting. So we're going to talk about seasonality today and also varieties, of course. First of all, we have brewed these coffees with our normal Aeropress recipe. The first coffee is kind of our standard grind setting. And then the second coffee, we had to grind a little bit finer to get a good result. And then the third coffee, we had to, compare to the first one, grind slightly coarser. So that means a medium grind, finer grind, and slightly coarser grind. So on my grinder, it would be like 2 steps finer on the middle one,
Okay.
and 1 step coarser than the medium on the last one.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because one of our subscribers were asking if I could at least give, it's very difficult to communicate grind size. And every grinder is different. Even if you have the same brand, they will be slightly different. So I can't just tell you a number. And then, you know, also different water qualities, how long the coffee has been rested, how you're going to brew, how much you're going to brew is going to be different. But this is brewed with our normal Aeropress recipe, which is also a link to a video below, using 14 grams of coffee and 200 grams of water. And then the grind size particle is relative to each other. So it's a great idea. Thank you for the tip to talk about the grinds in relation to each other. Then at least if you nail the first one, you can more easily dial in the 2 last ones.
Yeah. Nice.
Should we taste some coffee?
Of course.
Yeah. So the first coffee we're going to taste today is Elias's, I would say, standard coffee.
Okay.
It's the traditional varieties in Colombia, and by tradition, I would say maybe not tradition, but the most common varieties until the last 10 years. And that's Caturra and Variedad Colombia. And Caturra is kind of a mutation of bourbon, which we're also going to taste today. But it's not resistant to leaf rust.
Okay.
So remember, you were there, you saw a lot of trees without leaves.
Yeah.
Those were the Caturra trees.
Okay.
And this is a problem because when the trees doesn't have leaves, they don't produce enough sugar. So although the tree might have cherries, they will not be as sweet. So there is not a lot of Caturra left on the farm because we are actually changing it for other varieties that taste better. So the majority of the first coffee and the second coffee are Variedad Colombia, which is quite similar to Caturra in flavor, I would say, but it's resistant. And in my experience over the last 8 years, cupping all the coffees from Tamana, it is also the best and most consistent coffee out of the traditional ones.
Yeah.
Of course, we're developing new varieties there. By developing, I mean we have planted a lot of different seeds, and some of those varieties are tasting really, really good.
Yeah.
So this is the first coffee, and this Variedad Colombia and Caturra blend, because it's a blend, because there was not a lot of the Caturra. It was harvested in July 2019.
Okay.
So this is the most recent harvest that we have from the farm.
Okay.
The reason why it takes a little bit of time for that coffee to come to Norway is it was harvested at the end of July. Then because we're drying in shade, it takes about 30 days to dry. So already you're at the end of August.
Yeah.
And then I was there cupping, selecting coffees, and then those coffees needs to be confirmed here. So another 2-3 weeks for me to confirm everything. And then the coffees are taken to the dry mill where it's dehulled and sorted and packed, and then it's driven to the port and then shipped to Norway in a container.
So a long way.
Yeah, it takes, normally it takes around 2 months from when I decide to buy the coffee until it arrives.
Okay.
And of course we have some older coffees we need to sell first, so, this is normal for a roastery. But this is the 2019 harvest, and I wanted to send that out because it's fresh and nice and, relatively fresh.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, sweet.
Sweetness of chocolate and milk, maybe, together.
So the Tamana coffees are, for me, what I'm looking for when I buy these coffees is definitely sweetness, and it should have a nice mouthfeel. So a lot of times we say the word panela in Colombia when we cup. Panela is basically caramelized sugarcane juice. So it has this kind of brown sugar sweetness. there is some fruit there, and we're gonna compare it to the other coffees.
Yeah.
So this coffee is maybe a little difficult to define, like what kind of fruit flavor is there, you know? So for me, this is more like a rich, sweet, nice coffee. Let's taste the coffee number 2. That's going out to all our 2 and 3 bag subscribers. This is the same mix of varieties, so Variedad Colombia and Caturra.
Okay.
But it was harvested in December 2018. So this is the kind of harvest we're selling now. And it's from the mitica, which is a small little harvest they have once a year. And then the main harvest is June, July normally. So the reason why I want to serve or send out both of these is because we need to talk about seasonality and freshness in green coffee.
Yeah.
And let's taste it first.
Yeah. Whoa.
Different?
This is more fruity. More.
Are you sure? Let's go back. This is so funny. Let's top up this.
Whoa.
They are a little different. Yeah, it has some nice fruit. It feels a bit more rested.
Oh.
Coffees, at least when we buy them, because they're dried under shade, they need some time to kind of open up a little bit. So with the fresher one, for me it has a little bit more of this greenness that you find in fresher coffees. The mouthfeel is a little bit richer, I think, and maybe you feel that it's sweeter and kind of fuller. Well, the middle one is maybe a little bit more transparent in flavor, so it's a little bit easier to pick out, like you said, fruit. It's still sweet,
Yeah.
but the mouthfeel is a little different. It has a different structure.
Yeah.
Now, if we are strict and talk about seasonality, of course, we should never send out the middle coffee. For me, seasonality, it's important, of course. Green coffee has a shelf life, depending on how it was harvested and dried and so on. Can be anywhere from 1 month to 20 months. It really depends on how you pick, process, store, and ship the coffees. With Tamana, we have done a couple of things. We started to soak all the coffees in water before it's dried.
Okay.
This evens out the moisture content in the coffee. That's the theory, at least. And then we dry the coffee for a long time under shade, up to 30 days, which is a little long, but it's dried slowly and more evenly because we rotate it all the time. And then we pack the coffee in airtight bags, grain pro bags, before it's milled. And also after it's milled, it's again packed in airtight bags. And this really preserves the freshness of the coffee. And then when it comes to Norway, it's a cold country and we have a cold storage. So it's kept in a cool climate. And that makes, we even have coffee from June 2018. We have this one from December 2018, and then we have this from July 2019. And they all taste fresh because they're produced well.
Yeah.
Normally with Colombian coffee, if it's dried in a more common way, which is like 4 or 5 days, the coffees wouldn't stay that fresh for that long. So I thought it was a good exercise to see.
Yeah.
Here you can actually taste a little bit of resting, but you can also taste the difference in the different harvest periods.
Yeah. It's completely different.
And if we follow the progression from, because actually today I tasted June 2018, I tasted December 2018, and then July 2019 next to each other. And there's a clear difference in quality of the harvest. And looking back at my notes, we saw that the main harvest in 2018, there was a lot of small beans. It was very dry weather. Whereas this year, in 2019 or last year, you had a lot more water and the beans were able to expand and you had higher quality. So the average score of the coffees were higher also in 2019.
Nice.
Pretty nice, huh?
It's really good and clean and
Yeah.
what we have used to drink, to be honest, from Tamana. Like really great coffee.
Yeah. I love drinking this coffee, and when I'm on the farm, I drink it. I normally bring most of this. It gives me pleasure to sit on the farm and actually drink the coffee, but it's such a nice kind of breakfast coffee where you just, sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's taste the third coffee. That's going out to our 3-bag subscribers. And remember, when you brew the third coffee, you should grind slightly coarser than the first one.
Okay.
The middle one, you should grind slightly finer than the first one.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So the third coffee is a bourbon variety, which is kind of the mother plant of Caturra. Caturra is a mutation of a bourbon. So bourbon is a traditional variety, not resistant. But this is the second time we have a harvest from Tamana with bourbon. We planted the trees together with Elias a couple of years ago. So far, I think it's some of the best coffees from the farm.
Okay.
Let's taste.
Let's taste this. Whoa.
Yeah.
This is so
Pretty nice.
winey.
Winey is a good description. It's both a little tea-like and a little winey, if you know what I mean. You have this kind of black tea, little floral, also fruity. That fruit is more towards this kind of red grapes or something like that.
Reminds me a lot cascara tea as well that you have on behind the bar.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much similar.
Yeah. Cascara is, for those of you who don't know, when you dry the actual coffee cherry skin, you can dry that and then you can brew tea out of it. We're actually working on a cascara kombucha that will be out in March, April, I think.
Nice.
Pretty nice coffee.
Yeah.
Also sweet, but I think
So
the acidity here is a little bit more, pronounced than these
The
ones.
other two. Yeah, I agree.
And since this is the second harvest, it's actually the third picking, but the first picking was so small.
Okay.
So this is the kind of second harvest of this variety from this farm. We don't have a lot of this, so it will mainly be sent out to our 3-bag subscribers. There might be some left that we can sell online, but we'll see, depending on if you fail the roast or not.
I'm gonna try to not. So good.
Yeah. Bourbon can be a variety that can taste fantastic. Can also be a variety that tastes pretty average. It really depends on where it's grown. And I've tasted a lot of Bourbons, also from the area where Finca Tamana is. That is not so good. And I've tasted some spectacular ones. So we've tried to get seeds from the ones that are really good, because there might be variations in plant material. He has pink Bourbon, red Bourbon, and yellow Bourbon. And I'm referring to the color of the actual coffee cherry when we say this. And the yellow one didn't taste so good. So we're gonna not plant more of that and remove those. But the pink and the red taste fantastic. So we're gonna plant more of that. So the plan is actually to remove some of the Caturra.
Okay.
He's still gonna keep a small part of his land with the Caturra because it's a traditional variety there. But we're removing most of it and replanting with Bourbon and also some other varieties.
So usually how much is going to take for the new varieties to just give us...
From when we plant the seeds, it normally takes 3 to 4 years before you have the first harvest, depending on the variety. Elias was struggling a little bit with this Bourbon, so this is actually on the 5th year. Because he planted it in an area where the soil was in pretty bad condition.
Okay.
So now it's the trees are looking nice and they're producing well. So we'll get a little bit more next year as well.
Nice.
Yes.
Perfect.
Anything else we need to talk about? We talked about seasonality, freshness. Yeah, remember, seasonality is not everything. What's important to us is that the coffees taste fresh.
Yeah.
Once they start to taste woody, then it's time to not sell it anymore. And what do we do then with the coffee that gets woody? Well, fortunately, we haven't had a lot of coffee becoming woody lately. But last year, we had one lot, and we were able to actually sell the green coffee to a different roaster who could use that for a certain client. And, we lost a lot of money on it, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
So that's why when we buy coffee, I'm extremely careful with where I buy it, how it's produced, how we store it, and we try to, you know, use the coffee as fast as we can, which sometimes is a problem because most of the farms we buy from harvest in the same period. So Finca Tamana is a little bit later in the year with the harvest, and that's why we can have, that's one of the few coffees we have now that is tasting really fresh and nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please just comment below in the video. And thank you, Fotis, for joining me.
Thank you.
Next time we'll have some spectacular coffees to taste. So if you are interested in subscribing to our coffee, click on our, I guess, new webpage. We just launched a new webpage as well. And it's a recurring subscription, so you can pause it and stop it anytime you like. You can also change from 1, 2 to 3 bags and so on. So it's quite easy. You can also give it as a gift to a friend if you want. And I'll promise you, next month, I'll make it worth the while.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, that bourbon was so good.
Yes. You want some more?
Yeah.
Now it's a bit cold, but